My name is Camilla Collins. I am a confidence and lifestyle coach. I'm also the author of a book called #No Filter Needed. And I'm also the founder and CEO of multiple beauty and creative entertainment agencies and have been since 2009, I think 2010, 9, 10, around that time. And I got into coaching sort of around 2019. And the reason for that is it stems from my career as a makeup artist. And first of all, I noticed very early on in my career that actually the conversations that took place in the makeup chair were maybe more important than the makeup being applied in order for people to feel confident in their own skin or even comfortable in their own skin. But as time went on, what I began to notice was that nearly every single woman that sat in my makeup chair and looked at her reflection in the mirror immediately apologized for the way that she looked. And in doing so, she apologized for who she was or who she is. And over time, this just wasn't sitting right with me. And so I really got called to dig deep beneath the surface, way beneath the skin, to find out really what was causing lack of confidence in not just women, but also in men. And that has been my journey for several years now. And that was kind of around 2017 that I was embarking on that and sort of launched into coaching when I published my book, which came out the week before lockdown. Luckily, we got the book launch in, and that's kind of where it all started for me. And what I'm just super passionate about is changing people's self-perception so that they can realize or reimagine even the huge amount of power that they already have within themselves. Because we all have so much power within us and we have everything we need within us. But we live in this world now that is extremely busy and distracting, and we have our phones and screens sort of pinging all the time. And, there's so many things to do, so much opportunity of things to do that we're constantly being pulled away from ourselves. And that is actually knocking our confidence. So what I'm going to be doing in today's session is talking about the 3 main problems that cause lack of self-confidence. And then I'm going to basically sort of maybe call you out on a few of the common mistakes that you may be making that are contributing to those 3 main problems. And I want you to listen carefully for that, see if you see maybe one or a few, or maybe all 7 common mistakes that I'm going to tell you in your own, because we're all guilty of them and they creep up for me as well. And then after that, we are going to get onto the solution and the solutions. And it's a 5-step methodology of mine that I have been, that all my coaching products sort of work around, whether it's in a group setting or one-to-one. We work around this 5-step methodology, and it's the 5 I's. So that's what we're going to be going through later on. So the main aim of the session really is to heighten your awareness. It's to, like I always say, that everything is easier to operate when you have a manual. And the same goes for you. Self-awareness is our own manual. The more we know about ourselves, the more we understand why we feel the way we do, why we do the things that we do, the better we can navigate ourselves in this world. So I'm going to be heightening your self-awareness and also giving you some tools to create a better serving lifestyle for yourself. Because when it comes to confidence, it doesn't come from just one thing. It comes from all things. And a lot of it is to do with our lifestyle. A lot of it's to do with how we're living, what we're fueling our body, what we're fueling our minds with, where we're placing ourselves, the environments that we're in, all that stuff is really, really important. Now, I do have an ebook download, which I'm going to actually pop in the comments here. So this basically has everything that we're going to be going through today, with the problems, the mistakes, the methodology as well. So it would be a great thing to refer back to. You don't need it now, but just to download later. So hopefully you can absorb what I'm talking about today. And then it's, it's a relatively quick read, short and concise, but it's, just a great thing to refer back to. If you've got a pen and paper handy, I would love for you to write notes down. There's something in it when we, write things down. It really goes into our brains. So you don't have to write down everything I'm saying, but just a little aha moments, maybe little, light bulbs, and you probably will have that. You'll just, make these connections. So anything that is noteworthy, I really, really encourage you to write it down, and that's the way you're going to get the most out of this session. Now, I've got the chat box open. You are super welcome, Julie. I will try and keep an eye on it, and I will stop intermittently for questions if you've got any, or we can just do like a big Q&A at the end if that works for everybody. So I hope that's all good with you. So let's dive into the 3 main problems when it comes to self-confidence. So the 3 main problems that cause our lack of self-confidence and that feed into one another, so it's like the circle, is self-doubt, fear of failure, and poor self-image. And our self-image is our view of ourselves, both externally and internally. So, how we appear, what we think about our appearance is part of it, but also very much, our belief in our capabilities, what we believe we are capable of. And if you've got a poor self-image, you're probably not feeling very confident, in your appearance, how you look, how you're presenting yourself. You might feel like you're being someone that you're not. And the same with, belief in your capabilities, probably a distinct lack of them. And that just creates a poor self-image. And that can be fed into by self-doubt and also fear of failure. And fear of failure feeds into self-doubt, because when we fear failure and we don't push ourselves forward and we don't do things in order to get over the fear, then we get stuck in this kind of pool of fear, really reading more and more of this self-doubt, which then contributes more and more to our self-image, our poor self-image. So that's why it's this vicious cycle that we really want to stop happening. And so the common mistakes that I've come up with 7, there are more, but these are the most common mistakes that I've found. And when we know we're making these, it's so much easier to stop this problem, this like wheel of doom, as it were, sort of going round and basically just on automatum, like knocking our confidence. So number 1, and this one is a pretty big one, and I've mentioned it obviously at the beginning, with the world being distracting, and particularly more so with marketers being able to get into our minds. Before it might be you opened a magazine or a newspaper to see an advert, or you switched on the TV. But now, again, with our phones on us, doing like all the time, we're doing a lot of work on screens, well, depending what you do, but we're definitely doing more of it. And we're getting served up ads, whether that's through social media, whether that's on, Google pages and stuff. And so we're being led to believe that we can outsource our confidence. We can use other things, and the marketers are playing on our insecurities as well, sort of left, right, and center, to build our confidence. And the thing is, confidence is an inside job. And we can use things like fashion trends, like makeup products, like, things that make us feel a bit better as a tool. And they can be, useful in the short term. But what happens is it's often a tricky sort of line to kind of handle, because you end up relying on these things and they end up becoming a crutch for you. And then they actually end up being sort of more damaging, because you can't do anything without these things. And it could be even as well, like having a glass of wine or a beer or some sort of alcoholic beverage, maybe if you're out networking or with friends, in order just to relax a little. Sometimes these things can be useful, and you're outsourcing the confidence to that, and then your real confidence can break through. But when you're having more and more drinks, and then you physically, cannot start a conversation with someone until, you've had a drink in place, then it becomes a massive problem. And that compounds over time. So that's number 1. So I just want you to have a think about any ways you might be outsourcing confidence. Number 2 is not being prepared to fail. And I totally get this. We have this need to sort of fit in. We don't want to feel stupid or look stupid in front of other people. And so we often fear failure. But the mad thing is that actually we can never, ever get success if we don't experience failure. If we got success first time around, it wouldn't feel like a success. It would just be a thing. So it's actually when we try things and we fail, and then we try again and we get it right, that actually we get that sense of success. And that is our sense of fulfillment as well. And it's really helpful to reframe failure as learning. And we can assign our own meanings onto any word we like. And I think we all have different interpretations of, many things in our lives, but particularly words. And we give words power, we give them meaning. So when you think of failure, just think of it as learning and growth, because unless we're learning, we cannot grow, we cannot evolve, and we cannot move on. And, particularly in this fast-paced world where everything is moving super fast, people are moving super fast, we get left behind. We get left behind. So as much as we think we're going to stay in our comfort zone actually becomes a very uncomfortable place when everything else is moving ahead. So not being prepared to fail is the second one. Number 3 is spending time with the wrong crowds. And this can be super, super tricky, particularly when it comes to friends and family, long-standing friends. And when I say, wrong crowd, it's not necessarily that people are, purposefully negative, but they're just not aligned with who you are. And when you're constantly having to explain yourself to people, you start questioning yourself. That self-doubt comes in because you think, if you're around people that aren't like you and you're constantly having to explain your ideas, or people are just sort of gunning you down. And quite often when people do that as well, it's not necessarily because they just want to like poo-poo your idea. It's coming from a place of fear. And this often happens with, some of the most important people in our lives and the important relationships that we have, because they care the most about us. So it's actually their fear projected onto us. So we just have to be mindful of how often we are spending time with these sorts of people. And this is the last step of the methodology, so I will be going into this in more detail. But also, aside from that, sometimes, we are with negative people or jealous people that will try to bring us down. And it doesn't matter how much work you do on yourself, it doesn't matter how much, reading and researching and personal development and journaling and all these things, self-care that you do for yourself. If you keep placing yourself in an unsupportive environment with the people that you're spending time with, then you just simply undo all of your work and you just go round in circles. So number 4 is very similar to number 2, and not being prepared to fail, but not being prepared to try again. So more failure means more learning, and more learning means more growth. And when we learn, we build our confidence. When we grow our confidence. So we always have to be willing to fail. We have to actually, as I said, reframe failure into learning and look for opportunities to fail more often. Number 5, absolute rife these days, again, I think, particularly with social media, but that is comparing yourself to others. And this is the biggest mistake I feel that we all make. And I am susceptible to this, and I get pulled into it sometimes as well, and particularly with social media. And, we call it comparisonitis, where we're constantly looking at other people's carefully curated highlight reels, I might add, and perfect images. And we're not looking at the big picture, and we're just looking at things that they have or that they're doing. And we're automatically thinking that we don't have those or we're not doing those. And the more we focus on other people, the less we focus on ourselves. And what we're doing, we're not focusing on the skills that we have. We're not focusing on all the awesomeness inside of us, and we're not recognizing our uniqueness. And it's all those things that actually draw the right people and draw the right opportunities to us. And so by focusing on everyone and everything else, we position ourselves in this place of lack, and we feel not good enough, and we're not doing enough, and we should be doing something else. And as you can imagine, I hope by just, listening to it being framed that way, that's not living from a confident place, and that's not going to build your confidence. And of course, you can look at other people and be inspired to do something different or do something better, but just be mindful. You have to be mindful of what the thoughts are happening in your head while you're viewing all these other things, and really to just put boundaries and barriers around your time, particularly on social media, when looking at other people, because it's so easy to get sucked in. And the machines are a few steps ahead of us as well. So no matter how smart you're being about it, it can be a bit of a dangerous line to sort of walk upon. So you've got to put those things in place and just make sure that you're spending more time focusing on yourself, getting to know yourself and building your confidence from within than looking to other people. Now, number 6, again, this is something that affects us all. I have to pull myself up on it, and it's negative self-talk. So it's talking to yourself negatively. And the thing is with this, it can really spiral out of control if you don't keep a check on it. And, a bad morning can become a bad week to a bad month and a bad year very quickly if you're not keeping your internal voice and chatter under wraps. So you need to be keeping a check on that, because quite often we're having some bizarre conversations with ourselves, and we just need to be careful where those conversations are going. So I will be again talking about this in more detail in a minute, but journaling is a really great technique for finding out exactly what is going on up here. And the thing is, when we get things out of our head and onto paper, or even talking to another person about them, it actually it takes it out. It sort of relieves the pressure from ourselves. And quite often the things that we think are really bad in our head, once we say them in the open or once we write them down, they're not that bad at all. And so we can just sort of let them go. So that's a really great tool that we're talking about in a minute. Some of you might do journaling. Some of you might be regularly communicating with friends or a support network, or even a therapist or something. But you have to be mindful of yourself when you're alone. And something like setting an alarm on your phone to go off intermittently throughout the day. This doesn't have to be for the rest of your life, but after this session, it could be something you could run a little test on yourself, and just every couple of hours for this little alarm to go off, and that is your cue to just think, what am I thinking right now? And see if it's a positive thing or if it's a negative thing. And if it is something negative, then we just bring it back on track into the positive. And the more times you prompt yourself to do that, and that's why the alarm's great, because it makes you do that, the better you get at bringing your mind into the positive focus and focusing more on positivity than negativity, because we're also battling with the negativity bias that we all have anyway. And, that's there to keep us safe. It's not just to make us miserable and fearful people. It's, we look for bad things in order to protect ourselves. So it's just being mindful and aware of these things, and putting like management techniques in place. And using tools such as your alarm on your phone just to go off, or on your watch even, just to go off every couple of hours, and just pick yourself up on that. And then finally, number 7 is basically denial of just all of these common mistakes. Believing that you can outsource confidence if you keep faking it till you make it. Just keep turning to external things, and just believing that over time, eventually, like, some confidence will come from within you. It's not going to happen, and it's actually going to have the opposite effect. Again, denial of not being, not failing, thinking that, successful people don't fail, and not being willing to fail, not being willing to try again as well. Also believing that, as difficult as it is, with friends and family, but you can hack it. You're strong enough to just do the work on yourself, and then you can spend time with your friends and family who aren't necessarily supportive of you. Again, as I said, that's just going to undo all your hard work. Comparing yourself to others as well, and the most common one with this, having denial around this, is believing that the more you look at other people, the more you look for inspiration with other people, the better you will be. And yes, that works sort of in part, but you have to keep tabs on it. You have to be careful how much you are looking at other people as opposed to yourself. So basically, it's just denial over all of that. And quite often that will be an overconfidence, just believing that you can do it all your way, and sort of override all of these things. So I hope that made sense. And I wonder if any of those sort of, I don't know, hit a nerve with you, particularly for me, comparatinitis. I spend a lot of time with work as well on social media. I can get sucked into that. And outsourcing confidence, in terms of makeup and all of that in my past, that used to be definitely one for me years ago. But yeah, if any resonate with you, please do let us know in the chat box, because quite often you'll find that all of us are, struggling with the same thing, and we're falling into the same trap. So 5-step solution, 5 I's of the methodology, which is intervention, interruption, intention, identification, and influence. And so I'm just going to work through these. And again, they are in the book, and there's a little kind of paragraph on each of them, which will be really, really good prompts. But if you've got pen and paper to hand, this will be definitely good to jot a few things down. So number 1 is probably the easiest step to make. Well, it's the quickest step to make, but actually mentally can be the hardest. And it's intervention. It's staging that intervention with yourself. And I think for you to make any real positive change in your life, whatever area that be it work, be it your personal life, you need to surrender to the fact that your way is not working anymore. You've tried. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So, it's getting to that point of staging that intervention with yourself and saying, do you know what? I'm not getting any better. I'm not getting through this. I don't know best. I don't know best. And I need to source someone that does, or to speak to someone that does, or ask other people. And when we get to that place, then we can place our trust outside of ourselves. But otherwise our ego is really going to hold on to things. And even if we, buy courses or work with therapists or work with coaches, or ask friends for support, we're not really going to take it on board if we're still holding on to that, we know best. So that's why that step is, technically a very quick one to do, but obviously the hardest one to get yourself to do. Now, the next step, interrupting negative thought processes. So this is kind of the interruption stage. And a lot of us will be running on past beliefs, outdated beliefs, limiting beliefs from our past, maybe things that we had grown up with. And, a lot of the things are getting outdated now. In terms of business, for me, I don't know how many, if we've got people that work for themselves, or we've got employees here, but a lot of the way that things were done in the past are not done anymore. And that will be the same across, companies as well. So it's, really super fast moving. So we have to get really good at letting go of the way things once were, or the way things were done, and getting our brains agile into, going for new opportunities, trying new things, again, leaning into sort of that failure thing. But really what I want to ask of you today, and this can be to do with your personal life, or it can do to do with your professional life, is a bit of a goal assessment. And it probably could be both, actually, and quite often the two will cross over. And I just want to ask you, what goals are you currently aiming for? Like, we're coming to the end of the year now. So what goals are you aiming for? And, how has it been working out for you this year? How has your goal attainment process, whether that's a personal goal or work goal, how's it been working out this year? Have you reached your goals? Are there some goals that you're just not reaching? Are you planning on going for them next year? Like, where are you kind of at with that? And for the ones that you haven't reached, or maybe you're struggling with, I want you to ask yourself, are they really your goals? Or are they someone else's? Because often we end up picking up ideas that are other people's ideas. We end up going for things that our parents, our spouses, maybe a group of friends want for us, but it's actually not something that we really want ourselves. And the quicker we recognize this and accept that, actually, do you know what? This isn't something I'm passionate about. This isn't something I want. The quicker we can let go, and the more we can get onto the things that we are passionate about. So that's the real sort of big question today. And I just want you to have a think about just, things that you've gone for in the past as well, and that, haven't happened, and maybe you're planning on putting them as a goal next year. Just think carefully. Do you want to do that? Are they definitely your goals? Is there, is that really what you want to be working on? Lauren's just said, this year has been a struggle. I've tried to work on my own processes of growing a business, but let my 9 to 6 get in the way too much. I've let it knock my confidence I had at the start of the year, leaving me coming to the end of the year, realizing I've not allowed myself to achieve what I hoped to achieve. Let me just say, this year has been a struggle for everybody, no matter what their situation. And you know what? Even if everything's fine, like, stress and anxiety is contagious. And we're going to pick some of that up. So, Lauren, a lot of people have been struggling in all different ways as well. I don't watch the news. I hear bits and bobs, but, that can affect our mindset as well. And, saying you've let your 9 to 6 get in the way too much, sometimes we have these periods where if there's one thing we can guarantee in life, it's inconsistency with everything around us. So, and I'm just about to get onto routine in a minute. And that's why we have to provide as much consistency for ourselves and prioritize well of our own time. And I've actually got, if you go on my website, and this is for everyone, but Lauren, you might find this interesting. There's a self-sabotage. It's part of the free resources, a self-sabotage masterclass in there. Because quite often when I'll let you say getting in my way too much, when we let things get in our way, we're getting something from it. And there's a reason for that. So as much as also it could be, you could be wanting to start your own business because other people have told you be good at that and actually not really wanting to do that. Or of course, it could be the lack of confidence, and things kind of inside of you that you need to work through. But often when we're sabotaging ourselves and we're getting in our way and we're doing, sometimes when I have things to do, I'll do everything I can. I'll start cooking, I'll clean, I'll be polishing things, like anything to avoid the thing that I've got to do. We need to get to the root of why that's happening, but also, why we're self-sabotaging and what we're getting from that. So that might be helpful for you. But, just have a think, Lauren, about this, goal in particular, of growing your business, and just have a think about what things are getting in the way and what beliefs you're holding about that and why you're letting work get in the way. And, quite often there's the financial aspect as well, but we have to look at the long-term game. And so many of us get stuck in the short-term thinking, and the short-term thinking will always bring us less than fruitful results. And the thing is, when we stay in our short-term thinking of grabbing sort of quick things and just getting maybe that little bit of money in, or that quick kind of high or dopamine hit, we end up getting stuck in that, and we get stuck in the cycle of short-term thinking. And what that does is that drains all our energy and our time for actually taking the time and space out to sit down and do the long-term planning. And that's the sort of stuff that's going to make us reach our big goals that we want to. So we actually have to be, super disciplined with that. Lauren says, definitely thank you. I have a habit of not saying no when I should. I think this is a lot of my issues. This is the best confidence hack ever. Saying no more often. And again, it takes practice. Like all these things take practice. So I would say, a goal for everybody in 2024, try and say no more often and practice it. It's two letters, it's one word, but it can be so difficult, particularly, to certain people, it can be difficult too. And, if you're not running your time, I guarantee that someone else will run it for you. And the more we say no to things, the more we claim back our time, the more we take back our power, and actually the more confidence we build as we do so. So that is a great confidence hack. So thank you for reminding me that, Lauren. So anyway, routine. Is it serving you? Is your routine serving you? Our bodies, love consistency, and our minds love consistency because it makes us feel safe. And when we feel safe, we feel confident. So I really want you to have a think about if your routine is supporting you and your goals. Because again, going back, if you're not achieving your goals, it might not necessarily be that it's something that you don't want. It might be that actually your entire routine is not supporting your goals. Or you might have conflicting goals. For example, I always say this, and because this was me one year, I had a weight loss goal. I had a weight loss goal, and I also wanted to get better at cooking. So I wanted to do cookery classes. Now, losing weight and losing weight and learning to cook at the same time. Like while I go after one goal, particularly when I'm going after this one of the cooking, it's not really helping me with my weight loss goal. So sometimes we have conflicting goals, and it's fine to do it all, to want to do it all, but we can't do it all at the same time. So again, that comes with the planning of putting things, strategizing and maybe focusing on the weight loss, if that was the example, for 3 to 6 months, and then spending the rest of the year attending cookery classes and honing that skill. I mean, there's ways of eating healthily and doing that, but it's just making it harder for yourself. So just have to think if you've got any goals in your life that are conflicting each other, and just how your daily and weekly habits are supporting you, or rather, if they are supporting you, because this is often the first thing I see with my clients. Their sort of their weekly activity and their routine does not match what they're going after. So they're never going to get there. So just have a think about that. And again, as I mentioned, the self-sabotage masterclass might be a good one if you're constantly sabotaging, I guess, your own routine, just finding out why that's happening for you. Distractions. What things regularly veer you off track and stop you from, doing what you set out to do? So this is very much self-sabotage again. Find out what it is that it seems to keep coming back time and time again for you, because it's often these same things come back and they veer us off track, and they're going to keep doing that until we find out what it is that we're gaining from doing that thing that's veering us off track. And again, self-sabotage, behavior, getting to the bottom of that. And also, where these things are stemming from, like, also, if like habits are linked to another habit, because that can often happen. We can have these just triggers. So we would come, in from work, for example, and put our keys on the side, and that would be automatically our cue to, I don't know, raid the fridge or do something else. So we need to interrupt that cue. So find out what your trigger points are, if that is the case. If there's something in your routine that's triggering you to do something that's then leading to something else, and it could be like 6 things that are happening, not just necessarily one leads onto the other. So you want to trail that back and interrupt that. So again, we're in the, this interruption kind of process, and we want to interrupt the patterns that are happening that are veering us off track and basically not allowing us to be our most confident selves. So a little homework for you there this weekend. And so then it comes to being just damn intentional with everything that you do. So setting the intention. And as I said, we feel secure when we are consistent, when our basic needs are being met. And it's amazing how much we take that kind of for granted, and we don't actually focus on our sleep, on our hydration, on our nutrition, self-care massively. That's often the first one to go. So we need to get really intentional with our basic needs. And this is the first place to start with everything, because again, when your body knows like what's coming, when it's coming, like in terms of like how much sleep it's going to get, how much water it's going to get, what food it's going to get, and when it's going to come, like it's calm. When we don't eat for like a long period of time, then we have a little bit of food, like your body just doesn't know what's coming. So it's kind of in this constant sort of fight or flight response. It also conserves energy. It raises like cortisol and stress hormones. So there's all of that when we muck around with our sleep, our food, and our water. So it's not just, it's like, it's a good idea to eat healthy, and it's a good idea to get sort of 7 to 8 hours sleep. Like, it's imperative. It's so important that we do, because nothing else works unless we do. And, in whether you run your own business or you don't, your business cannot thrive if you're not thriving. Your career cannot thrive if you're not thriving first. Your family, you can't look after your family. You can't be there for your friends in the best possible way if you're not taking care of yourself first. So that's why it's so, so important. And the good thing is as well, once we get a handle on our basic needs, such as our sleep, our nutrition, making sure our self-care is in there, exercise as well, then it works on automation. Because once you start going to bed at a certain time, waking up at a certain time, you might have the odd day off, but then it becomes automated. You're tired at that time, you naturally fall asleep. So it can take a little bit of resistance, trying to get more water in, preparing your meals in advance, making yourself go to bed on time. But then after, a few weeks, it starts happening automatically. And then you don't have to worry about it. And what that does is it frees up a lot of brain power for you to then focus on everything else. It stabilizes your mood, it stabilizes your energy as well. All these things make you feel confident in yourself. They make you feel energized. They certainly make you feel a lot happier than when you're not paying attention to them. And you just feel more secure. And again, I can't say it enough, but when our bodies and our minds feel secure, we are naturally more confident. And of course, when we're more confident, we just attract more great things into our life, whether it's opportunities or with people as well. So that's why it's so, so important. I'd love you to set yourself actually a little challenge maybe for next week, and just really set yourself a sleep and wake time. an amount of water to be drinking. We should, like, minimum, I tend to have sort of 3 to 4 liters. The more water, the better. It also fills you up as well. And quite often when we think we're hungry or reaching for like sugary snacks, we're just thirsty. So always go for water. And then if you still want something, then fine, go for the food. But quite often it's, lack of hydration. So set yourself a water target. Make sure you've got self-care. Make a promise to yourself that you're going to put a self-care activity in there once a day for you. And it's a non-negotiable, 30 minutes, and make sure that is in there. And then also I want you to set yourself a challenge as well. And this is important for our growth. We always need to be challenging ourselves in whatever way. So that could be striking up a conversation with a stranger, for example, when you're out on a walk, which can be a little bit uncomfortable, not the end of the world. Although if you're a very shy person, then it could be, quite big. So quite a big deal. It could be just, pushing yourself to do, I don't know, a 10K run or a 5K run or a 1K, even if you don't run. Just these little challenges, one a week. Make sure you're doing that, because the great thing about confidence is it's transferable. So in whatever area of your life you push yourself to do a little challenge and you overcome maybe a little bit of fear, or you push outside of your comfort zone, like, you build confidence, and you can transfer that confidence, into the workplace or back into your personal life. So make sure you've got a challenge in there once a week, and set yourself a challenge for next week. Now, the next step is identification. And this is all about identifying with yourself. And this is super important, again, because the whole world is pulling us away from ourselves. And we're constantly focusing on everybody else, and we're not focusing on ourselves. So that's why it's so important to get back to ourselves, to carve out the time to do things like journaling, to write down, how we're feeling, to process our thoughts and feelings, to get to know what on earth is going up here, because quite often there's, crazy stuff, and download all of that, and stop it sort of busying our minds. So journaling is really important, or finding some sort of stillness just to connect with yourself. Like, personally, I'm crap at meditating, but walking is better for me. I tend to just just going out for a walk really helps to just get the negative energy out of my body, and just like process some of the thoughts in my head. But I do have to do journaling as well, because we often can't figure problems out when they're in our head. We have to get them out, or we can talk to someone, and that often helps as well. It's still, we're voicing it and we're getting it out. So that that is important, but it allows us to recognize what's really going on inside here. And only when we recognize what's actually happening, how we're actually feeling, can we then work through it. And the other thing is the physical identity. If you get a compliment from someone, but you don't actually believe that about yourself, then it doesn't really feel like a compliment. So connect with yourself in the mirror. Just spend 5 minutes each morning just looking at your reflection. And, sometimes if you're a lady, you might be covering yourself up with makeup every single day, not necessarily intentionally, but you're covering yourself up. So maybe have a makeup-free day. I used to do those as well, because I noticed that I felt uncomfortable when I was outside with no makeup on. I was like, well, this is weird. So I intentionally made a point of not going out with any makeup for a couple of days, which felt weird at first. And then I felt fine again. So that's what I was saying about these tools that then become crutches, and start, hindering our confidence. So just think how you can connect with yourself and your physical identity better. And now the final step is minding your influence. So again, being mindful of your environment. And I can't go into this in too much detail because we're about to run out of time, but your space is super important. Your, office, your home, your bedroom, kitchen. So keep it clean and declutter, because actually clutter is really draining on our energy. Because our senses, I've got like a mug here and a water bottle here, and I probably should have cleared up a little bit more, but these are constantly in my eye line. So when I'm trying to focus here, I'm draining energy by my eyesight sort of picking up other things. So this can happen as well at home. And it's so important that we declutter regularly and we keep things clean. And actually that in itself, when we do a declutter and we clean, it can be very, very energizing. So it just keeps us focused. And when we're focused, we feel confident. When we're focused on one thing, if we've got lots of things going on, like it's splitting our focus, and we can't feel that confident because there's too much going on. So I'm not just telling you to clean or declutter for the sake of it. There's actually a proper reason behind it. Now, the other thing with influencers is, managing your relationships, putting boundaries in them. And again, I hear the most often, the problem is with family members, to be honest with you, and struggling there. And again, it's not because people don't have your best interest at heart. Often it's they're just projecting their fears onto you because they want the best for you and they love you and they don't want to see you get hurt. But you need to live your life. You need to do these things and you need to find out technically the hard way and potentially fail, which is learning. So you need to learn. So just put boundaries in place of your spending time with certain people that maybe feel not wonderful and then find yourself people that do make you feel wonderful. So I call them motivators and inspirers, and this is definitely something that I'd love you to think about over this weekend, is the people that have come into your life that you may not have seen for a while. Find, like, who are they, and how can you get back in touch with them again if you've not seen them for a while? Or how can you spend more time with them? These are the people that lift you up, that just, you feel light around them. And if you think back to the last week or 2 weeks of all the people that you've seen, you'll be able to identify very quickly who drained your energy and who lit you up. And it's not that you don't see the people that drain your energy, although ideally, if that is possible. But as I said, often they're, important relationships and important people in our life. But you just put boundaries around your time, and you always make sure that you're spending more time across a week, because we're never going to get perfection in a day, more time with people that motivate and inspire you than you do with the people that, maybe drain your energy a little bit, or have you explaining, or you having to watch, what you talk about, or skirt around topics and things. All that stuff is really draining. So just manage your time better and put those, boundaries in place. Because, Jim Rohn said, we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with as well. So choose your circle wisely. It's super important that you cultivate a network that supports you, and not one that's going to bring you down, because every single one of us has amazing capabilities inside of us. We want to be around people that nurture those, so we feel that we can nurture them as well. And self-assurance and confidence is not something that some are born with and others don't have. It's something that we all have. We all have access to it. We just have to build it, a bit like a muscle. And I promise you, it is within you. And that very much will come from your routine, and getting a handle on that. And just sometimes even just focusing on your basic needs. Our upbringings, our, existing environments, like, they don't always enhance our abilities, but it doesn't mean that not there underneath. And it doesn't mean we can't work on them and we can't nurture them and we can't develop them, because it's never too late to start working on them. Like, absolutely never. And they can be really quick to build once you know how. So I hope you found that helpful. If anyone's got any questions, please do pop them in the box. We've got a minute or two to spare. I'm just going to have a look at the comments here. Okay. Jude's saying, I've not done anything to my business since last year. I'm finding it difficult to start again. Definitely can relate to the 7 points you made. I think we all can. I've worked on myself and felt a lot better, but still suffer with anxiety at times. And sadly, I know this will always happen in my life. Overthink about everything when I'm feeling stressed. Hey, I'm a chronic overthinker, so I hear you. But I don't want you to say that. You saying, I know this will always happen in my life. It doesn't have to happen. That's a belief that you're holding on to. But what proof, what proof do you have that your life will always be this way, and this will, be something that you'll always suffer with? You can absolutely manage it. You can put things in place, and you can help yourself, work on bit by bit, sort of day by day, and certainly improve the situation. And the chances are, like, it'll just dissolve over time, but you've got to be consistent with the work. And I love that that you've been working yourself and feeling a lot better for it. Like, hold on to that. So that's perfect. That's a great belief there. You've worked on yourself, and that working on yourself makes you feel better. So how can you do that more? How can you do that more? And then we can get rid of that. Sadly, I know this will always happen in my life. That doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. In terms of overthinking, I think my greatest advice for that is write things down. Often in our heads, now all the time in our heads, everything is like 20 times worse than it actually is. Things can be catastrophic. And when we write things down on paper, I've done this before. I'm like, what am I worried about? It's not even a big deal. And the best thing is to just do things as well, that, you know, just quickly. I don't know if you guys know Mel Robbins. I think she's fab. She wrote a book called The 5-Second Rule, and you literally count yourself down from 5. You know, if there's something that you're not doing or you're overthinking on it, you just go, right, you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you just do the thing. Or whether that's calling someone, writing something, going out for a run or something, whatever. And just counting yourself into it really, really does help. So there's all these little techniques you can do that can really help you. But, you know, as I said, it's let's not beat around the bush. It's tough for everybody at the moment. We're in extremely tricky times, but the thing is, it's not going to go away. And, you know, things are really, really evolving and sort of speeding up. We're going to constantly kind of be moving, particularly in this like digital era. So we have to get comfortable with evolving and moving and sort of dealing, I guess, with stressful periods and making them less stressful for ourselves, because there's always going to be more and more stuff coming out, more and more opportunity, more and more things. But it's a great opportunity to do more learning and to have more experiences and to gain more opportunities. So just think of it like that. So if we don't have any more questions, then you're welcome, Dave. You are super welcome. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining me here. I should have said at the beginning, obviously my name is Camilla, but I'm here on behalf of HelpBnk as well, who have invited me on. So thank you so much for having me, and really, really great to see you guys. Thanks for joining me. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week.